Morning, everybody. I'm actually filling in for Noel Cronin, who's the main guy doing building control inspections with us in Kerry. So he's taken up today with other duties, so he asked me to fill in for him. So hopefully I'll get most of the points there. Like mentioned earlier, timber frame was a big thing in the east of the country. We never really got timber frame down in Kerry because of the driving rain and stuff like that. But the ICF, the Insulated Concrete Form, has taken off the last few years down us, probably because of the weather, horses for courses, so it suited ourselves. But what we found, it just came up very quick, but our firefighters go out as well to do housing estates and check, but they were coming back in with these stories that, these houses are built from God knows what, and they're flammable and it's very dangerous, and there was a lot of fear in it. And the same with our fire officers inside and fire prevention. So we were there, so we kind of had to have a look at it ourselves and see what was on it. But that's where this is coming from Noel's side. So just there's our ICF block. If any of you haven't seen it, just they're filling that with concrete. There's your aero board or polystyrene filling there on it. So what we're going to cover is what is ICF, how it's made, so factory-made blocks, where ICF in Ireland, materials, the fire characteristics, which is a concern for a lot of people. Like when they do look at this, they wonder, well, what is this thing? What am I getting into? How is it going to comply with the regulators? Has agreement sorts, all that. Like every system, if it is built correctly, it works. If it's not, if you have problems like all the stuff you heard, and if there's a problem on site with the building, you're going to have problems with ICF like all other stuff. Would I be worried about fire at ICF? Not really. I'd be more worried about water egress, really. If you go out to any of these houses, and there's a lot of money spent and a lot of housing estates there and social housing, and they're handed over the keys, and the next day you go out, what's the first thing that's on the side of the wall? Satellite dish. How was that put up? Was it there? So these things, so penetrating them in and stuff like that. So it just changes. So ICF, so it's not new. Like it's from Germany's 1930s and 50s. There was a few going back in the 80s, and then a few companies tried to start it up in Ireland. Didn't really take off. It is the specialist form insulated block piece together. It is Lego, and people call it Lego, and it does look like Lego and all that. But if you take it this way, you get Christmas morning, you get a box of Lego, and you open it up. There's maybe 4 or 5 bags inside in it, and bag one has these parts, and there's instructions. When you go to these manufacturers like of the ICF, so they will supply bag one, and then bag two might have other parts. Do you supply that? Oh, yes, we do. We do these parts. All right. What about bag 3? Oh no, with your agreement sorts here says you can have aluminium lintels or stuff like that. Do you supply them? No. So then you start in there, and what we call is bag 4 is where this thing has gone out on site and it's being constructed and it's being built and it's trying to find the parts that to finish the building. So it is Lego, but you don't have, and the manufacturers, they're creating the blocks, they're making the blocks, they're making walls, they're making the floors, they're making roofs, but it's putting it all together, and that's where the stuff gets complicated and all of this. So it's in there. So your Lego blocks, there is steel, there is reinforced rebar, it's all inside there. DPS blocks and mold, concrete is poured in. External render, so we've gone out, there's external render there. On all of these, there's different companies, about 4 or 5 different layers that you're putting it all on. That's it. That's meant to be a certified person doing that. Like if water gets into your building in this situation like that. So when you go out on site, you see guys doing this. Who's doing the plastering? How's it being done? Are they qualified to do it? Do they know what they're doing? So that. Why is it being used? Developers come along and maybe they'd fall out with block layers in the last job, stuff like that. So they decide we'll go ICF. We'll move the knowledge train down. We're going to get lower skilled operators and helping to build and that. So Installation speed block can be assembled extremely quickly. It's energy efficient, airtight. As you have all this soundproofing. It's easy to use, easy to install. It's structural integrity, all these things. It is easy to use. It is easy to build with. But what actually happens is, where you had a knowledge base with builders and carpenters and block layers, they're slightly pushed aside, and there's a lot of work going on the engineer or your resident engineer on site or your engineer on site that he needs to get. Like, if you go out, like, and there's the one-off, like there's housing estates and there's one-off of these, like, but if you go out, the first thing you go before they go pour is just ask them how you getting on. Yeah. Have you a pre-pour checklist? If they don't have a pre-pour checklist, you don't know, because when this thing goes, it'll go wrong very quick in you, right? So that's it. So these are our ICF manufacturers in Ireland. There's actually 4, just a few certs up there. Certs are very similar in this, like there's probably 20 pages on all of them, maybe a bit more, on some. It doesn't cover it covers the big points, like there's probably folders and boxes of information, going into the NSAI. They're putting the salient points inside it. You'll get the cert. You may go out to a site to inspect the site and say, oh yeah, I'll just print off the newest version of the cert. There's also an installation manual that the companies, whichever one you go out to, whoever is the main manufacturer, they will have an installation manual. You have to have that with you. You have to see what's inside it, because while the agreement cert is there, it's giving you information, but is it giving you all the information? It's very difficult. But like the certs and all the competitors, they're all up against each other. And if one person says they're going doing this, the next person is going to put it into the agreement cert. Like there's stuff in the agreement certs there, like, and I've asked them, like Noel does most of this stuff, but we go out, like there's when you go in one of the sections for the internal linings, which is a big part of this, oh yeah, you have your plasterboard, gypsum plasterboard. It also says one of the options is an internal plaster, so some kind of internal plaster. We are yet to find anybody who has it, installed it, or made it in any of this stuff, right? So it's inside the agreement cert, but we've never seen it. So that's it. But there's 4 different companies. We just happen to have one in Kerry. They're manufacturing down there, and because it's taken off. Where it's being used, housing estates. You see it just came up, like we've 4 or 5 housing estates in Kerry. Just came along. They have sprouted up, as we call them. It's ICF that was built. When you go out on the site of those, the guys know what they're doing, It's like they might get the first house wrong, but the very last one is going to be spot on and this thing. But they're going out, raft foundations. They have all the stuff. They have everything set up on it. They have everything set up because there's bracing. There's a lot of stuff to be done in this that is there. So you go out and the stuff is there ready. You have the one-off house. If you go out on site and you see stripped foundations and you see a lorry left a load of ICF blocks just dropped there, and it's just, you're going, oh, how is this going? And the local builder's doing it, and it's his first time at it. And the same thing, has he done a course? Has he been trained? You're gonna, so the one-off houses are there, like, and so, like, and you go in, like, and it's, we'll just go on about, like, we also have a lot of agricultural buildings in Kerry outside. The farmers are buying this stuff up, the blocks, and they're using it as shuttering for farm sheds or whatever they need it for. It's there. So guest houses, a lot of B&Bs started using it for extensions. It was quick, didn't have to, when they didn't have to close down their buildings and stuff like that. So terrace houses, schools, multi-unit apartment blocks, 18. As I said earlier, on the search, if you go through them and you look through them, there is classifications. People have ran in, local authorities have, we know that where buildings were built and the classification isn't on the classification down on the cert, those buildings can't open right now. They're stuck there. So what happened was somebody changed the design or the priorities or the build. Like in Ireland, when you look at ICF, we are the modern methods of construction, and you go, well, what do? We go and somebody goes, oh, get me planning. So somebody goes off and gets planning, and that's it, and they come up with a design, and then they come along and they go, oh, let's build it. But like the design first day versus what you're going building, like the products that are there, it might be a developer because he's a company and that's what he's going to drive it. But the design that was first off was being built. Maybe modern methods of construction is not the method for it, or this method, ICF, mightn't be the method for it. So it's like this, like ICF blocks are 250 mil high. So if you make it easier on yourself, if you get a drawing, you look if your floor heights are divisible by 250, bang, 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 you'll know full blocks. If not, what are you doing? The guys are on site with a saw cutting blocks down to reduce the height. So it's stuff like that where you need to start at the very start. And while we're here touching it at the end on the building control and inspection and quality assurance and all that, there needs to be a talk head on the planning, or if we're going down this route, maybe, well, we're going to be building ICF. Well, from the very start, that design needs to be done. So that's kind of stuff. What is this stuff anyway? It's polystyrene, it's aeroboard, it's been in existence for years. You go to the factories, you'll see what it is. It's like a little seed. That's all, it's a little seed. They get it, they heat it up with steam, and it becomes a bead that you'd say for your pumped installation. That we put in that bead. They leave it dry for about 24 hours, and then they get that and they put it into a mold, and the mold there has its C-sections or galvanized steel. They put in the molds, and that's how they create it. It's there. It's all made in the factory. I wouldn't be worried about the quality control stuff in the factories. That's all there. Expands like the EPS, when they do say it is full of it is air. You know, like you lift the block there is a bit of weight in it, but it's mainly air is what they have. But this is where the concerns came in with fire officers in our county, and with firefighters and stuff like that. EPS, so what it is polystyrene, and what is it? It is it is Class E or Class 4 in the building regulations. There's two types of it available. You'll see if you go on site. There is a standard type, generally white in color, and there's a fire retardant one, which they put in, and that's grey, kind of a graphite grey color. The fire retardant grade, a small quantity of fire retardant is just added into it to make it there. The foam, we set this stuff on fire, but just for our own firefighters, just to see what happens. It doesn't light. It melts away. It shrinks away from the flame. You know, if you once you hold a flame onto it, it melts. It does not continue on with it anyway. That's it. So, but people were worried about it and stuff like that. So we were doing. The ignition just changed the ignition stuff. Temperatures. That's all it's doing. It is raising. It does give off more heat than timber does. But if you look at it, and this is where the stuff is, the main thing when you're dealing with ICF, and it is from the EU, it is strongly recommended that expanded polyurethane should always be protected by a facing material or by complete adaptation. So we're using it for shuttering pretty much. So we have our concrete infill, we have our polystyrene airboard. You are putting plaster board, you are putting something on it. We have gone to people's houses, I've seen where they've built a house and it's fine, and they have the garage next door. Why would a single one-off house? And the guys there, do I need to put plasterboard on it right now? Is there a cost to that when you're design builder and everything yourself? You know, so this thing will it needs to be encapsulated. So that is the main concern about it. So if you look at it, comparing it, so EPS Rex fire units. So if you go to your technical guidance document B and section A9, and you go in there, internal linings, it'll tell you Class 4 rating is not acceptable under the provision of this document. So that's for a lining. So that means there it is. So our EPS is Class 4. That's if it's just bare face leaving your polystyrene faced inside the building. That's why it has to be covered. It has to be covered with your gypsum board. Or on the outside with the render. So that's it. So if we actually look through the cert, then like we went out to a few days. The first day we just grabbed the cert and we went out, and the building started. They were being built without us actually realizing, oh, there's ICF in the county and it's starting to move up. You know, and it's becoming there. So when you start looking at the stats, so the system has been assessed. So this is out of Eggman search different ones. The system has been assessed for the use as load bearing and not load bearing walls in the construction of specific design buildings. People get this thing and they go, oh yeah, just put it in. Like there is steel in it. There is like you are putting in your rebar. You are putting 1 meter gauge around. They have a bare minimum understanding if there are one-off people on this. Who's designed this? You have lintels inside there. Like who assessed this for you? Who like has it been assessed? You know, the local builder who's putting it up. If you ask him, he'll say, "We'll do what we did the last time." They just got a 16 mil steel, put it in 500 mil extra either side of the oak. That's what they did. That's what they're doing. You know, it isn't Lego, and that's what you need to learn. You know, there is a lot in this build, and there is manuals to it. So disproportionate collapse. It's in part A to do it here. In this, wouldn't be too worried about it. Would I be, you know, think what about light metal gate? You know, the way they talk about that is there. So same thing about the concrete. It says inside in the cert summary. So the structure required concrete strength will be specified by the chartered structural engineer and will depend on the building height and the load. Yeah, it's inside it. Now inside it, generally you got most of the certs, if you look at it, will tell you get 25 or 30 Newton strength concrete, 10 mil aggregate or less. If you don't use that, you're gonna have voids. It's not gonna fill inside that. So like that, the same as John and Derek talk is when they are getting, yes, the certs. Where did you get your concrete? What are you filling? What is the size of the aggregate? You know, and stuff like that. Did you do that? Did you do those lintels that you've put in the ops? Who designed it? You know, can I see a design? Can I see a calculation for that? Timber floor, this is just another copy out of certs there. So timber floor and 2-story construction. First floor is assumed to be formed using timber frame joists and load bearing walls. So using Simpson strong ties. So here we're going along now, using other, you know, so we're trying to get other systems and other people's stuff to think it's the different bags that we know and what's going out there, and same thing there. So internal fire stopping where required must be installed on top of the 12.5 mil gypsum board immediately below the ceiling level. So, but you actually go out now, you'll find some of the NSDI certs will have good detail, others less, you know, when you do it. But what you'll find is there's a little shim just there. That's just a little metal shim that was slid in through the polystyrene. Wasn't fixed for in the first few that we came along. What they did is they made it, I think it was Homebond came along and challenged a few people on it. But now what they're doing is they make a larger shim. It's just longer and it's going into the concrete. I'll show it to you there afterwards. So these are the simple things to look for inside in your building. Like if you're going out, like we're not their quality control, we're quality assured. You know, we can go out and we can just check that the basics are being done. Like, but that's it. There's your ledger board is there, but what they actually do, if you look at the design, what they do there, this is aero board. They'll just cut that aero board out. They'll put anchors onto that, put it into the concrete, and they'll use the board as the shutter, and it'll all be there, and that's it. So there are details there. If it's not in the agreement cert, it's in their installation manual. You need to go out and check. That's what they are following that. So internal, the same thing. So when you go to fire barrier, so outside the so we have the before and after the external finish. So when they put on the window, but before they put on that, you need to put in your fire barriers. Fire barriers created by placing the strip, same thing, galvanized steel strip. There's 150 mil insulation on most of them on the outside. So what they were doing is they were just shoving this thing in and sitting there. It was no mechanical fix. Change that. Now, if you go out there, they will supply this, but it's 180 mil. So it's actually going through and it's actually going into the concrete, and that's how they're fixing it, you know, right? So that's it. So when you go on site, same thing at all the junctions and floors, stuff like that's on the outside. You'll see it in double mesh it when they're placed. So you check this before. So have they got that in? Have they got these things in the fire barriers, internal and the external ones? Another easy one just for us to go out and see what's out there. Cavity barriers, like they're called up in the technical guidance, that can be there is no cavity because in the concrete, but people are questioning then, well, if the uh, the polystyrene is 98% air, should there be something in, between the airboard blocks? It's not, so nothing in it there. Agreement certain in scope. So this was just a building. We had okay. So their builder came along, used ICF, but did a step out in his construction there from the architect. So can't it? And then so we were there. Oh yeah, and how does that achieve? And where's that in a drawing? And where's that in your manual? Where's this? And they had to go away and come back to us. They provide details, stuff that new technical guidance document B shows 900 mil fire resistant construction for external walls, compartment floors. Just another issue there. We're just seeing how people on it. Well, we find this with the manuals, and you have your manual, you have your argument cert, and then you have your acceptable construction details. The department put a lot of money in last year before doing really detailed ACDs and that. If you compare what you're getting, like from or the manual, this to this, there needs to be a lot more information provided, from the manufacturer. And we meet them on site, we say, yeah, the details there, but all right, can you give us more, or how is this? And a lot of the stuff is, oh yeah, yeah, we'll get back. So like the render, the gypsum board, how are you actually going? Oh yeah, we'll fix that. We'll show it. So a lot more detail I see on the agreement cert or the manual they need to put in. Services, this is it. So people who love ICF for chasing and stuff like, so you hot knife or you router. So you'll just cut down, put a hot knife there, straight down there. You're going to make for all your electrical services. Same with the plumbing. So, but the thing is, since it is polystyrene, you have an issue. So what it states inside it, electrical cables should be ducted to avoid plaster. The cables must be placed in PVC ducting and must be sized to the minimum heat resistance. So this is inside. So if you're using ICF, you have to duct everything. All right. We have the other issue there is the meter box. I'm yet to see a detail on a lot of these guys. So if you go out on site, what they will have is the meter box will be put in, and behind the meter box, they will have a flex, we call it a flexi flow or flexi pipe that comes from the back of the meter box up and ends out at ceiling level inside in the internal thing. So I haven't seen details for it, so it's just a question there. Maybe it's in manual or newer version. I just haven't seen it there. Same thing here, cavity closers. There's stuff like technical guidance document B requires cavity closers to fire resistant EI 15 or EI 30. You can see here in the dryer, they're calling up the EPC cavity. So the cavity closer there is there. So it's detailed like this. A lot of it is and the window frame and this. So the manufacturer of the block or the ICF block is there. He's manufacturing one thing. Or window people, you need to get these people involved. It's not Lego. It's not an easy job. Right? So if the window fails, if there is a fire, if there's a problem, where's the fire spread gonna go? So the other side there always the BR135 fire performance of external thermal insulation for walls, multi-story buildings, right? So thermoplastics, this is it. So it's just to highlight the concern of it is thermoplastic products such as expanding polystyrene, EPS, will typically soften and melt in the early stages of fire, generating a void behind the external render finish coat. If inadequate fixings have been used without the support of the insulating material, the finish coat will sag and crack, producing direct entry for the fire of the insulated material. Once the material ignites, rapid fire spread can occur if suitable fire barriers and fixings are not provided. The relatively low softening and melting point of EPS means that the damage can be occurred of the insulation layer well away from the seat of the fire. So it is giving us a warning, lads, that there is going to be an issue here if you don't follow your installations correctly. Plasterboard. So we go out a lot, and so plasterboard, 12.5 mil plasterboard slab fixed directly to the EPS onto the concrete core with plastic insulating anchors. That's what they're all calling up on it. So you're fixing mushroom anchors through stuff. Being honest, I haven't seen any plastic insulated ones. I've seen metal ones, lots of them. No, and that's what's out there. And that's it. The same. There's your that metal shim that they're putting in there so they'll give it you. They'll supply that. That's to stop the fire. That an easy one to check that you're there. The fixing of the plaster board onto a thing is on site. Maybe we will in the housing estates is probably the meeting requirements. One-off houses, a lot of it is just dabbed and the boards are put back on. You know, it's like if it's a one-man band and it's so you don't really see it so, but it is important that they are mechanically fixed, because what's going to happen is the insulation behind, if there is any fire, will go. It will come down. So the arguments are, so there are ICF floors, we have roof systems, you have ICF walls. So this is Milltown, one of the housing estates went out to. So you've room and attic space completely encapsulated in ICF on all sides inside there. So what you're seeing here is you have that's an ICF panel they've made for roofs. So it's all in there. So it's spanning the hole into that. What they're doing then is you're putting a board, bolting it on there onto your steel beam, and they're screwing that down onto the board. So there are your panels. In the roof, so what they're doing then is on the roof, on that then you come along and there's a reveal on that for a batten. So you have to put a batten down first. When you're doing the ICF roof, you batten it, then you felt it, then you cross batten it, and then you put on it there. So it's all these little details, you know, that people are out there and that they don't see outside there. So into the attic space. So the attic space viewed as a non-habitable room, so no plasterboard required. All right. So you're going into these places, you see out, you go up to the attic, what you will see is ICF inside there. Internal stairs, internal protected stairs, should this have a fire stop internally where the stair puts there? Just a question, like there isn't much detail in it, and like the ICF manufacturer is making the block, he's not making a stairs. So how does his stairs and how do they, you know, it's questions we've had from sites, and to get answers with it, it will tell you in the agreement cert that escape stairs should have fire retardant linings inside the agreement cert. It states that inside it, but more detail, and these are the kind of things where we are getting caught, but also the guys on the ground are getting caught. You know, that there is systems there, but how are they all going to be put together? There's your party. So the part A would be, so there's joints. So would be benefit guidance was given where the movement joints is required. It doesn't say we've asked people where so that's it. There's your different codes. So if you to make sure for your water tightness inside it, so you need to be registered to put that on according to the stuff. So the same as there. So if you're there, a lot of these guys come along. It's the local fella. He's building it himself, and then you have water egress into the building, and they're wondering what it is. So when you put on your finishing coat and all that, your primers, you've done that. You have 15, 20 years, or 20, 30 years, depending on what product you're using. What it also says inside the agreement cert is every year you're to walk around and inspect your windows and doors and recoat a bit of silicone prime, you know, to inspect them. This is Ireland. I don't think people are into building maintenance in that way, but it's in there. It's like if you read your agreement cert, it's inside, or it's inside their installation manuals. If you look through it, that you're to inspect the outside render yearly. Just construction challenges. So builders lacking knowledge. The big builders, the housing estates, they know their job, they know what they're doing at this stage. It's the one-off guys, the builder who's out there finding it hard to get labour, maybe he can't get in for it, so he's going to go down this route. Has he got the knowledge? Has he got the training? Concrete, you're going to have your concrete issues if they don't follow 25 or the 30, depending on what respect. At the 10 mil, there is actually defects hidden. So a lot of cracks in concrete, voids, rebar coverage. You can see there, that was just there when we took stuff. So the vibrating it, and putting it in. So there is a lot of work to it. Like, it isn't Lego, and that's what we're trying to get through. And it is a detailed system, and all the guys doing it are big construction crowds down our way, one-off houses. There's a lot of it there, but I couldn't tell you the level of expertise that those guys really have. So in summary, consistency. So we found when between different agreements of fire stop and fire barrier, just terminologies that were coming up to us: fire barriers, fire detail, the friction fit. They got away with that. When they're pushing in the metal, they just have the lint in their piece of metal and sit it into the concrete. Attic spaces, they're not. There's no plaster slab up in the attic spaces. You go up and you'll see them. They're not habitable. The other questions on it was when the electrics are gone in and stuff like that. We had the same as their putty packs and stuff like that. Are they required in the electrics? We're not sure. We can't see it in any of the information. More consistency aligned with the ACDs. Like, the ACDs are very detailed. You can zoom in these. You need to be, when they're redrawing them, or the manufacturers, they need to tie in a bit more with that. We go out on site, and a lot of these guys, it's not their problem. It's the NSAI is too busy, and they've given them the information, and they're waiting for their certs, and they're updating and stuff like that. Insurance has a place in it, and firefighting. I know that our locally, our guys had, they were worried about it, but those concerns are gone. But I think that's about it for me. Yep, that's all he gave me to do. So thank you.